Hey guys, welcome back to Wixfix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down some of the more complicated sections in Wixfix's new template. So this template is like a modern business website that can basically be used in any business industry. And as usual, it'll be for sale on our website. So if you want to use this for your own website, or if you want to use this for your current or future web design clients, then click the link in the description and grab a copy of this today. Before I get too far in the video, I do want to mention that we are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2021. So if you are new around here or you've been around for a while and just haven't subscribed yet, I really want to challenge you to subscribe to the channel. It would really help out a lot. But now let's get into the video. So the sections that we're going to be breaking down today is this section right here with the cards that are kind of floating above the previous section up here. We're also going to be breaking down this one right here, which has a repeater that would link to different blog posts. And lastly, we're going to be breaking down this one right here because we are going to be creating a very complex grid system so we can accomplish this effect. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and hide the header because we don't need it for this website. So I'm going to come over to Site Masters, click this little 3 dots next to the header, press Show On, and we're going to remove it from all pages. Don't forget to press this little X, otherwise it won't apply your changes. The next thing I wanted to do is click this section right here, and we're going to come over to minimum height and set this to 100 VH. 100 VH stands for 100 viewport height. And basically what that's saying is that this section is going to take up 100% of the user's screen, no matter what device the user is viewing the site on. So if they're on a tablet, a small computer, a large computer, or even a phone, this section is going to take up 100% of the height. Next, I'm going to go ahead and right click and we're just going to go to quick add and add an image. I'm just going to expand it to the full length of the screen. Next, I'm going to come over to settings and we're going to set the scroll behavior to parallax. Next, let's go down to add a section. For this one, we're going to add a blank one. For this section, we are going to make it 700 pixels in height. We're going to come over to the design tab and we're going to set the background to like a light gray. Next, I'm going to add this topographic image and I'm going to expand it to the full width of the section. And we're going to lower the image opacity to like 2%. That way it's barely visible in the background and gives it a little texture. Next, let's go over to the add button and pull out a container. We're going to come over to the design tab, come over to border, and we're going to remove the border width. Next, let's come over to layout. We're going to set the width to 80% and we're going to set the height to 175. Next, let's come over to apply grid and we're going to choose the 3x1 and press apply. Next, we're going to come over to adjust grid, edit grid, and we're going to add a 30 pixel gap in between each one of our grid items, just like that. Then we're going to come over to add. We're going to go to quick add and pull out another container. For this one, we're going to shrink it up quite a bit and we're going to put it into the left box just like that. And we're going to stretch it. If we open up the inspector and go to design, here we can set a background color of white. Below that, we're going to go to border and we're going to remove the border. Then we're going to go to corners and we're going to add like 6 pixels radius for the corners. So we should see something like this. Then we're going to come over to shadow and we're going to add a very faint shadow. For this one, we're going to set the distance to 5. We're going to set the size to 2, the blur to 15, and the opacity to 15 as well. So now we are left with this faint little shadow. Then if we click on the box, we can press apply grid. For this one, we're just going to do 2x1. Next, we're going to press adjust grid, edit grid, and we're going to set this top one to 0.5 FR, just like that. And we're going to press done. In this left column, we're going to come over to add. We're going to come over to decoration, and you can choose any icon that you want. But for this example, I'm just going to use shapes. We're going to resize the shape, come over to the inspector panel, go to layout, and we're going to make sure it is aligned to the center horizontally and vertically. Then if you want, you can come over to the design tab and you can edit the color. Next, in the right part of the grid, we need to add some text. So we're going to come over to add, text, and we're going to drag out a small title. And we also need some paragraph text. So we'll go to add text and we'll drag out a paragraph. We're going to set the width of both of these text elements to 90%. And I'm going to go ahead and remove some of the text. We're going to line both of them up together, and we're going to press stack. We're going to grab the stack, come over to layout, and make sure it is also aligned to the center and middle. Next, if we click this container, we can go ahead and add a hover effect. So we're going to come over to the inspector, go to interactions, add interaction, and we're going to customize. We're going to make sure we're on the hover state, and we're going to translate it -2 pixels. So then if we preview it and hover over the box, it's going to go up slightly. Next, we're going to go ahead and copy this container. We're going to paste it into this middle one. And we're going to paste it into the one on the right as well. And the last thing we need to do is overlay this on top of this section. To do that, we're going to come over to layout. We're going to make sure that this whole container is centered, and we're going to align it to the top. Since we set this container to 175 pixels in height, then we can do 175 divided by 2, which is about 88 pixels. So we're going to set the top margin to -88. Just like that. The next thing we want to do is have large text right here, some small text to the left, and small text to the right. So what we're going to do is come over to add, quick add, and just do a container. We're going to set the minimum height to 300, and we're going to set the width to 80. And of course, we want to center it horizontally and vertically. And as always with every container, I'm just going to come over to the design, border, and remove the border. For this one, we're going to apply a grid of 3 by 1. For this middle part, we're going to have some large text and then some small text underneath it. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to come over to add, quick add title. And we're just going to copy and paste it. For both of these, we want to center align them. For this top one, let's just make it a number of 20. Let's go ahead and expand the text box. And we're going to make this text really large. Probably something around like 350, maybe 250. Then we're going to edit the text and edit the line spacing so the text box isn't so large. Next, let's grab this bottom text. We're going to make this 90% width. We're going to make this one maybe about 20 pixels. And we're going to add some character spacing. And then you can just add in whatever text that you want. Next, let's go ahead and grab both of these elements and press stack. And we're going to come over to the layout and align it to the bottom. Now, something I haven't been showing you guys is just about in every single text element that you add to the page, you should be adding scaling text, which if you don't know what that is, scaling text helps the text resize on different devices. For example, if I did not add scaling text, everything would start getting squished up like this. But if I enable scaling text, set this one to 250 and maybe 100, then preview it, then you're going to see that the text gets smaller. That way on all screen sizes, that text is going to look good. So even though I'm not doing this in this tutorial, I highly suggest you add scaling text to every single text element on your website. For this right section, what we want to add is a large title, a medium title, and a little paragraph. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and add 2 titles. So I'm just going to copy and paste the title, and we're going to add a paragraph, just like that. For this top text, we're going to set this one to 60 pixels in size. For the title underneath it, we're going to set this one to 15 pixels, and we're also going to set the paragraph to 15 pixels as well. Next, let's go ahead and grab all 3 of these elements and press stack. If we come over to the layout tool, we're going to align it to the left and we're going to align it to the bottom. And we're also going to change the docking from the top to the bottom as well. And we are going to add 15 pixels of spacing there, and we're going to make sure that there is 15 pixels of spacing below it. Next, what I'm going to do is copy this stack right over here. We're going to come over to the left side and press paste. With the stack selected, we're going to come over to stack setup and align everything to the left, just like that. And then what we're going to do is come over to the top alignment options and align it to the right and bottom. And just like before, we're going to remove the docking from the top and dock it to the bottom. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and add an image. And now we're going to go ahead and add a stock image. For this one, we're just going to choose a guy, and we are going to make sure that it is square. Then we're going to come over to the design tab, come over to radius, and we're going to set it to like 200. Then what we're going to do is come over to border. We're going to set it to like 10 for now, and it's going to add a nice white border. Then we're going to come over to shadow and enable the shadow. And we're going to add the same shadow settings that we added for this box up here. Next, we're going to shrink down this image quite a bit, and we're going to stick it over here to the left. Now, because we made it small, the border is quite big, so we're going to come back to border, and we're going to set this to like 6. Next, we're going to copy and paste this. We're going to bring it all the way to the right side, make it a little bit bigger, but not too much bigger. And we're going to raise the border to like 8. And lastly, we want to copy and paste it again, make it a little bigger, and we're going to stick it right here at the bottom. And for the border on this one, we want to set it to 10. Then we're going to come back over to layout, and we're going to see the height is 214. So we're going to do 214 divided by 2. It's going to be about 107. So we want to make sure that this margin right here is set to -107, just like that. Now let's move on to the next section. And this section is going to be for that blog repeater. So what we want to do is set the minimum height to 1200, just so we have room to work with, but we'll change that later. Then we're going to come over to the add panel. We're going to do quick add container. We're going to set this to 80%. We're going to set the height to 550. And what we're going to do is align it to the right and align it to the middle. For now, I'm going to leave the border on the box, but we're going to go ahead and press apply grid, and we're going to do a 1x2 grid. I'm going to come in here, press adjust grid, edit grid, and we're going to set this bottom one to like 500 for now. Of course, that is going to change in a little bit. For this top section in the grid, we're going to add another box. We're going to expand it to the full width, and we're going to apply a grid. For this one, we're going to do 4x1. Then we're going to press adjust grid, and we're going to set this left one to 1.8 FR. We can go ahead and add a title. You can go ahead and place in your text, and we are going to align it to the middle and left. And of course, undock it from the top. Next, in this area, what we're going to do is go ahead and place in a title, and we're going to place in a paragraph. Now we want the text to be quite small, so we're going to do 15, and we're going to do 15 here as well. We're going to set both of these to 90%. We're going to put them right underneath each other, and just like before, we're going to stack them. And just like we did with this one, we're going to align it to the left and align it to the middle, making sure that it's no longer docked to the top. Then what we're going to do is just copy and paste it. We're going to bring this stack over here to this box right here. And we're going to align it to the left and align it to the middle. Now we need to create the repeater for our blog post. So in order to do that, we're going to come over to add, we're going to go to quick add, and we're going to pull out this repeater. The first thing we're going to do is come over to change layout. We're going to set it to slider. We're going to set the horizontal margins to 15. We're going to turn on scroll snap, and we're going to turn off the show scroll bar setting. Next, let's go ahead and press manage items, and we're just going to duplicate one of the items, just like that. And then if we click on the items, now we have access to set the width and the height. For the width, we're going to set it to 525 pixels. And the height, we're going to set it to 400. And for all of these, we're going to come over to the design tab, and we're going to remove the background color completely. Next, let's right click, go to quick add, and we're going to add an image. We're going to stretch it to the full width of the item in the repeater. Then we're going to come over to design. We're going to set the background color to 100, and we're going to lower the image opacity to like 70, maybe like 80. Then we're going to come over to corners and set the radius to like 8 pixels. And just so we can see more, I'm going to press the repeater, come over to the layout tool, and make sure that the width is set to 100%. And we're going to align it to the left and align it to the top. I'm also going to click this section, and we're going to set the overflow content to hide to prevent our website from being able to scroll to the right. Next, we want to add a little description text and a little title text. And we'll put it right about there. The next thing we want to do, and actually let's go ahead and raise this up a little bit to right about there. Then we're going to add a button. And of course, with the design, we want to make sure that there is a background color. Let's go ahead and set a radius of 8. We're going to remove the border, and we're going to lower the text to be about 15. And let's go ahead and raise the text up just a little bit more. Now let's make sure we select the item by going over to the breadcrumbs and making sure item is selected. We're going to come over to hover interactions, add hover interactions. Then we're going to customize the hover interactions. We're going to make sure that we are on the hover state, and we're going to raise this up 4 pixels. And then if we switch over to the initial state, then we can translate this to 55 pixels, the text. And if we select the button, then we can set the opacity to 0. So now when we preview it, this is what we're going to see. And of course, we can just scroll through and see the other options. Great, now let's go ahead and select the container, and we're going to remove all of the borders. And then if we select the background container, press adjust grid, edit grid, and we select this height for the second row, we can set the minimum height to minimum content. And with this container still selected, we can come over to layout in the inspector panel, and we're going to set like 150 pixels of margin on the top and 100 on the bottom. Now we can select this section on the page, and we can set the minimum height to none. And basically what that did was it added 150 pixels of margin above and 100 pixels of margin below, and that margin is controlling the height of this section. Okay, the last section that we are going to be doing for today's video is the one with the numbered bullet points. So I'm going to go ahead and add another section. For this one, we're going to choose a grid, and we're going to choose the 2x1 layout. Just like before, we're going to set this one to kind of like a crazy height for now. So let's just do like 1,000 pixels. And over here to the right, we had that laptop image. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And over here to the left, what we're going to have is some title text, and then we're going to have the bullet points. So let's go ahead and add that. The first thing we want to do is add a container. We'll bring it over here to the left. We're going to set the width to 50, and we're going to set the height to something like 600. And we're just going to center it up, just like that. Next, we're going to apply a grid. For this one, we're going to do 1x2, and we're going to adjust the grid. For this top one, we're going to set it to 160. And this bottom one, we're going to set to like 430. In this top one, we're just going to add a couple title text elements, and we're going to align it to the left and align it to the middle, making sure that it's not docked to the top. Next, what we want to do is add another container in here. We're going to stretch it to the full width of this section in the grid. And then we're going to apply a grid to this one. For this one, we're going to do 2x1. Then we're going to adjust grid, edit grid, and we're going to set this one to like 100 pixels. Next, let's add another container. We'll make this one really skinny. We're going to put it over here in this left section of this grid section, and we're going to stretch it. For this one, we're going to apply grid, and we're going to do a custom one. We only want one column, but we want 5 rows. And this is what it's going to show. Then in this right section, we're going to add a box, and we're going to stretch it. We're going to apply a grid, and we're going to do 1x3. And now we can start adding content. For the top, the middle, and the bottom, we're going to add a circle shape element with some text in the middle, which it's going to be numbered 1, 2, and 3. And as we're adding the text and the blue circle, we're just going to make sure everything is centered up. Next, in between these numbers, what we want to do is add a line. So we're going to come over to Add, we're going to come over to Decorative, Vertical Lines, and we're just going to drag out this one right here. We're going to set the height to 80%, and we're going to center it up. And if we preview the site and look at it, you're going to see it's a little to the left. So what we need to do is grab the line, and we're going to add 3% margins to the left. In design, what we're going to do is set the width to 2 and lower the opacity to like 40. And now what we're going to do is copy it, and we're going to paste it into this one between 2 and 3. Of course, we're going to make sure that the height is set to 80%, and we still have 3% margins to the left. And then now inside here, we need to add the text. And for this text, we're going to make sure that everything is aligned to the left and top, and we're going to add 3% margins to the left and 20 pixels to the top. We're going to do that for each one of these. And last but not least, we're going to grab this container right here, and we're going to add like 80 pixels of margin to the bottom, maybe 60, just like that. That way, each one of these text elements lines up with the proper number. But let's go ahead and add a little bit of margin to the top as well, maybe like 10 pixels. And now the only thing left to do is remove the borders from all of the grid boxes. And now we are left with this, which looks really nice and clean. And if you wanted to, what you could do is grab the grid area with all of this content below, and we're going to come over to Layout, and you can set the margins to -20 pixels. That way, the left side is all lined up together, just like that. But that basically wraps it up for the video today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, please consider pressing that like button and consider subscribing for more Wix and Editor X content coming out really soon. And again, if you do want this for your own company or for your current or future clients, then feel free to click the link in the description and grab a copy for yourself. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you on the next one.